Abuja mo come from like Black Media. Abuja you did the camp on this subscriber down. Abuja be kai say enche kola na Bawumia ebegina simpi su ka say wo pese one John Dramani Mahama Shia for anobaba ya potoka se mekan say debate kire wadwe na menkyere ma adwene ne twema mentwe no nam so ma Mahama ba monte be ka say wono Wontimi ane sebi asukonoma te se Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia ma megina simpi ba akoso yetwema mentwe abusia no ne eduedie ma akwakonya the year 2001 video bia John Dramani Mahama ene na nado danko akufuado etna simpi ba akoso ene akunya ba akone pono ba akoso na omoye se omubusebuse omo ensemisa wabra na nado danko akufuado attorney general de ma Ghana ene and MPP abayin den tam na nipa wateso John Ajekum Kofo ebusia sans misano ekoso Emma John Dramani Mahama enya kwanya busa na nado dankwa Akufo-Addo se owura wo kasa nyina emle bi atwam ama meka se wo babeka se nyame yamadom na mutimi eba power June 31 December yoni any breach bi a ebo enipa bi a wo Ghana ha sei no mo behwe se mo beye ho ye kire na ade ne kosi ye wa bra mo ba power na afi mo discuss was ade no wo table ho na mo ya no baba ye ma wo de abufu esole free table no ho eno si wo eno de wo me mitirim na abusia questions bi a John Dramani Mahama ebusa ye Nanado Danko Akufo-Addo ne answer bi a Nanado Danko Akufo-Addo de mano eno na kofu bi esusu se da bi ene de wi a John Dramani Mahama sebio na adwene mu edo na sane watimi ene lawyer te se Nana Ado Danko Akufo-Addo etimi ahia with the year 201 na wo hwe se the wi a questions si bi kwa ene answers ti bi ba ya eno na nam so ma John Dramani Mahama ka se da bi wontimi ene onipa bi te se Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia enhia because eba se anobaba yemu ene kasemu a o chen bebre abusia yenkohwe se ne video ni ye the year 201 MLCC
criminal libel law, so forth and so on. What will you do, assuming you are confirmed? We made a specific commitment to the people of this country that if they were to entrust the administration of Ghana to us, we would in fact see to the repeal of those laws. As far as I'm concerned, that is an obligation imposed upon us by our manifesto, the people have accepted, and that therefore we are duty bound to bring legislation as soon as possible. The timetable of those matters will not be a matter for me. The timetable for those will be a matter for the president, because at the end of the day, all of us act in his name. But certainly proposals will come from me for the repeal of those laws. I think, Mr. Chairman, it's going to look very funny to the Ghanaian people that one of the most vocal critics of those laws, in myself, when given the opportunity of power, of office, then chooses not to do something about it. I don't think that would be right, and I don't think that my own reputation would withstand such an experience.
At the last sitting of Parliament, insisted on issuing a statement against a lot of opposition from members of the House. Now, in that statement, he said that whether anyone liked it or not, the majority in the next Parliament, which is this Parliament, was going to introduce a motion to set up a Justice and Peace Commission to probe or inquire into June 4 and 31st December. There was an uproar from both sides of the House, and you were shown clearly walking out of the House, apparently in opposition and in disgust to what he had said.
This is a case of a genuine coincidence. This is a clear case of coincidence.
I want to be clear in my mind whether you were opposed to the timing of what he was saying, or you were opposed to the content or the idea of setting up such a commission, and what is your own opinion on that?
I would prefer to answer the latter. I left the chamber when the discussion was on, and I think that insofar as we all do that, as you know perfectly well, I don't think that any particular significance should be placed on the times I get up and leave the chamber and come back. But my own view is that at some stage or another, we're going to have to come to grips with that whole era and its consequences. We want to come to grips with it in a way whereby the peace, the stability, the progress of our country is not jeopardized. We're required in this country, like in many other countries in the world, to make a decision as to how we deal with our past. By and large, the nation is ready to say that what has happened in the past, let bygones be bygones. But there's still the situation involving the victims. People whose sufferings in one way or another cannot be so easily alleviated just by words. That a mechanism, some kind of mechanism was already in place when you were in office. The Attorney General, for instance, I know, was reviewing the whole situation of the restoration of people's assets and how all of that could be arranged. What I believe that the minority leader was putting on the table, which is I believe, for instance, the majority view in the country, is that let us have some kind of mechanism working not with discretion. Our objection to the way that the Attorney General was handling this matter was that there was a slightly discretionary element. He would choose which people to deal with it. But let us have a mechanism which would deal with these matters in a reasonably objective and impartial way. And the only way that you could do it was to establish some sort of body that would deal with it. I am not sure in my own mind. It's a matter that we'll have to make a decision about soon, whether there's in fact any need for any particular body, because there are institutions in place, like the Shrine, which can in fact perform these functions for those who believe that they're entitled to some sort of restitution or compensation or whatever for what has happened. And my preference, frankly, and that is going to be the attitude which dominates my tenure of office, is that wherever there are already existing institutions that can deal with the problems that you come up by, let those institutions be strengthened, let those institutions deal with it, so that we can have some development of institutions in our country in an orderly and organized way. Every time we are at every stage, we're having to set up ad hoc special bodies to deal with particular problems. I myself do not think that that is a satisfactory way that we can develop the state structures of our country. I think that to the extent that the charter of the Shrine would permit them to deal with this area, my advice would be people who have problems, let them go to Shrine and let Shrine deal with it.
Are you going to give relief and justice to the victims of the demonstration of 1995? As at now, the victims of that demonstration have not received justice. What are you going to do to see that they get justice?
The victims have got all their rights of law to prosecute their matters with due process. I, as the Attorney General in itself, cannot do anything. If people bring petitions or they petition the courts, I mean, the process, there are lawful processes whereby people can express their grievances and seek redress.
Honorable members.